There's a kind of discipline that never falters. Not when you're exhausted. Not when everything falls apart. Not when you feel like giving up. Today, you'll uncover the ancient system that forged unbreakable warriors. Have you ever wondered how shinobi survived alone in the mountains for months? How they trained in secret for years without anyone noticing? How they maintained total discipline without apps, reminders, or motivational coaching? The secret wasn't willpower. It was something they called Ninpo, the way of the invisible warrior. Once you understand the 5 pillars of this system, you realize that the discipline you've been trying to build so far was fragile. The shinobi understood something about human nature that modern science only confirmed centuries later. The brain isn't designed for discipline. It's designed for survival. That's why their methods work when everything else fails. But this path comes at a cost. It doesn't accept those who only want to try. It demands sacrifice, the sacrifice of the weaker version of yourself that settles for empty promises. Before we dive into how this system works in practice, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and turn on notifications so you don't miss future lessons. Thank you. Now back to the story. Chapter 1. The Failed Boy, Feudal Japan, Eager Prefecture, 1540. A 14-year-old boy named Teisher was known throughout his village by a cruel nickname, Teisher the Lazy. Ever since he first saw shadows moving across rooftops at night, he had dreamed of becoming a shinobi. But there was one problem: he was hopeless. Every day, he promised himself he would train. Today I'll start. He'd drop to the floor for 3 push-ups, grow tired, and walk away to eat. He'd vow to meditate, but when he sat down, he couldn't focus. For 2 minutes, he tried. His mind wandered. He got up. He promised to practice with the wooden sword. 5 strikes. His arms burned. He stopped. The cycle repeated. Monday morning. Today is the day. Monday afternoon. Maybe tomorrow. Tuesday. He forgot entirely. Teishi's father was a blacksmith, a practical man with calloused hands and no patience for dreams. Shinobi are legends, ghosts your parents invent to scare children. You will learn my trade and leave this nonsense behind. He knew shinobi existed, even the secret school in the mountains, but he never revealed its location. He pretended the stories were false, doubting his son and hoping the idea would die. But Teisher couldn't stop. Each night, he stared at the mountains where the school supposedly stood. Each morning he thought, what if I really try this time? And each afternoon he gave up, until the day everything changed, though not in the way he expected. He was returning from the forest after another day of training, 20 minutes of playing with twigs, when he saw a man standing in the path. Plain clothes, ordinary appearance, except for his eyes. Those eyes seemed to see right through him. You want to be a shinobi? The voice wasn't a question, it was a statement. Teisher felt his blood run cold. The man took 2 steps closer. How many times have you promised yourself today would be different? Teisher said nothing. He knew the answer, hundreds, maybe thousands. Come with me. The man began walking toward the mountains. If you can keep up, I'll show you the school. If not, go home and accept a life as a blacksmith. Teisher looked up at the steep climb ahead. 3 hours. He had never done anything for 3 hours straight in his life. But something felt different in that moment. Maybe the clarity in the man's voice, maybe the fact it was his only chance, maybe he was simply tired of being weak. I'll go. The first 20 minutes were manageable. At 40 minutes, his legs burned. An hour in, his mind screamed the old excuses. This is crazy. You're not cut out for this. Go back tomorrow. But the man walked on, silent, relentless. 2 hours later, Teisher crawled on hands and knees, tears streaming, his body begging him to stop. Then he understood something that would change everything. The pain didn't matter. Fatigue didn't matter. What mattered was the choice he made at the trailhead. Warriors keep their word. He stood and continued. 3 hours and 15 minutes later, Teisher reached the summit. He collapsed, vomited, and passed out. When he awoke, he was inside a temple. Dark wood, incense in the air, complete silence. The man sat before him. You completed the first lesson of Ninpo without even realizing it. Welcome to the Koga School. Chapter 2. The Death of the Weak Self. Teacher woke before dawn to a bell that seemed to vibrate inside his skull. 15 other young men stood in identical dark clothes, staring straight ahead. The master, the same mountain man, stood at the center. In Ninpo, there are no attempts. Only 2 states, you are or you are not. From that moment, they were students. Wake with the bell. No negotiation. Sensei, what time is it? Teacher asked. The master's gaze cut him down. Questions are thoughts. Thoughts create hesitation. Hesitation creates death. The bell rings. You wake. End of discussion. The first week was brutal. Early bells, an hour of silent meditation, 2 hours of physical training, 2 hours of strategy, stealth practice until dusk. Repeat. Teacher wanted to quit every day. But here was the difference, he couldn't. In Ninpo, commitment isn't to yourself, it's public. On the first day, each student declared to the community, I am a student of the ninja way. My word is my life. If I break my word, I am nothing. 15 other students heard. The teacher recorded it. Identity changed. Teacher didn't promise to try, he declared who he was. And when your identity changes publicly, your primitive brain interprets failure as social extinction. Our ancestors who lost tribe trust died. The brain still reacts this way. Declaring your intention publicly triggers survival instincts. Shinobi understood this centuries before neuroscience confirmed it. Their philosophy, never break your oath. On the 3rd day, Teacher awoke with his body in agony. Every muscle screamed. His mind immediately began, you're hurt. You need rest. One day won't make a difference, Tishi's mind protested. He glanced around. All the other students were already on their feet. No complaints. No negotiations. And most importantly, if he stayed down, it wouldn't just be his failure, it would be visible to everyone. The shame of breaking the oath in front of the group outweighed any physical pain. He stood. On the 5th night during dinner, one student whispered, Man, we can't do this. This pace will kill us. The master heard. He rose. Take your belongings. You're expelled. The boy turned pale. But I didn't do anything. I just said, doubt is poison. In Ninpo, thoughts are actions. You have acted against your oath. Leave. The student never returned. After that, no one at the school complained again. Everyone understood that the oath wasn't decoration. It was the structure that held everything together. Yet, Teacher quickly realized that the oath solved only half the problem. Even with social pressure and fear of expulsion, he still faced an internal battle every day. That's when the master introduced the 2nd pillar of Ninpo, the principle of unchanging rhythm. Chapter 3, The Rhythm That Doesn't Break. Think of that silent struggle every morning. Should I work out now or after breakfast? Wake at 5 or 6? Do it today or wait until I feel more energy? You believe you're being flexible, but really, you're wasting mental energy on small decisions that weaken you before you begin. After 2 weeks, the master called Teacher. I see hesitation in your eyes every morning. Teacher was surprised. Sensei, I get up every day. I've never failed. Standing up isn't enough. You are still deciding whether to stand. As long as there is decision, there is weakness. We must remove choice. The master explained, in true Ninpo, time is constant. The bell rings because the universe needs constants. Remove time as a variable, and you remove negotiation. Your body is foolish, but it learns patterns. Wake at a different time each day, and your body resists. Wake at the same time daily, and your body prepares even before the bell. Teacher didn't believe it until the 3rd week. On the 19th day, he awoke moments before the bell. On the 25th, 2 minutes earlier. By the 30th, fully awake, feet on the floor, mind clear before any sound. His body had built an internal clock. Not because he was special, but because the pattern was unbreakable. Yet the fixed schedule only solved when to train. Another battlefield remained. What to do during training? Some days he wanted strength, others speed. Sometimes rock climbing. Other times sword techniques. His mind found a new opening for negotiation. The master noticed. You are creating chaos where there should be form. In Ninpo, we practice ka, perfect form repeated endlessly. Then he added something that sounded insane. For 100 days, you will perform the exact same training sequence. Same movements, order, repetitions. No variation. Teacher hesitated. Sensei, won't I get bored? Won't I stop improving? Boredom is the ego-resisting transformation. True evolution comes when practice becomes automatic and your consciousness can finally observe the invisible details. Chapter 4. The Form That Frees. Here's what no one tells you about variety. You think changing things keeps life interesting. But variety is where discipline dies. Each day you decide differently, squat or run, how long, which technique first. Each decision is a crack where old patterns leak back in. Teacher began his personal Shuyo period. 100 days, same sequence. 50 push-ups, 100 squats, 30 minutes sword practice following precise kata, 20 minutes breathing techniques. Same order, same place, same time, every day. The first week, his mind screamed for novelty. This is insane. You're human, not a machine. By the second week, other students commented, man, you're turning into a robot. Where's the creativity? The self-expression? The master heard them and laughed. Creativity without a foundation is just chaos. You may want to express yourself, but first you must master the form. Only after mastery can your expression have meaning. The third week tested Tishi's mind like nothing before. Every day, the voice in his head whispered, do something different today, just for today, so it doesn't get boring. But he remembered the expelled student. He remembered the oath. He stayed with the form. By the fourth week, something unusual happened. His mental stamina started to weaken, not because he was getting stronger, but because stamina tires faster than discipline. His mind realized there was no alternative. No matter how often he begged for variation, the answer remained the same, no. Eventually, the brain stopped fighting. Week 6 brought a breakthrough. Midway through push-ups, Teacher realized he wasn't consciously thinking. His body moved through the sequence automatically, like water flowing along a familiar path. It wasn't boredom. It was freedom. Freedom from the tyranny of constant decision-making. By the 8th week, during sword practice, he noticed a tiny detail in his wrist movement for the first time. Something impossible to perceive if his mind had been busy debating which technique to practice. The master observed silently. Now you see, he said, when form becomes automatic, consciousness is finally free to notice the invisible. A neuroscientist at Kyoto University, after 18 years studying behavior automation, has found something remarkable. When an exact sequence of actions is repeated for roughly 66 days in the same context, the basal ganglia take over control. The prefrontal cortex is freed for higher thinking. Actions become as automatic as breathing. On the 45th day, Teacher fell ill. Fever, fatigue, pain, all of it tempting him to skip training. No one trains when they're sick. I'll start again tomorrow, he thought. This is where most people quit. The all-or-nothing mindset whispers, if I can't do it perfectly, I won't do it at all. It seems logical, but it quietly destroys consistency. Teacher approached his master. Sensei, I'm sick. Should I rest today? The master looked at him as if he'd asked a foolish question. Rest is different from giving up. True rest is fine. But you're not asking about rest, you're asking for permission to create a gap. What's the difference? A river never stops flowing. During a drought, it becomes a trickle. During a storm, a torrent. But it never stops. The moment it stops, it is no longer a river. It's just a hole where water used to be. Your practice is the same. Then the master taught the third pillar of Ninpo, Muku, practice without gaps. Feeling weak today? Do 10 push-ups instead of 50. Meditate for 5 minutes instead of 20. But do something. Momentum is more important than perfection. Teacher did half his usual training. It was imperfect, uncomfortable, even unpleasant, but it preserved momentum. He didn't create a gap. The next day, after the fever subsided, he returned to full training as if nothing had happened. Had he skipped entirely, his body would have resisted the next day, interpreting it as a break in pattern. By maintaining continuity, the rhythm remained intact. Day 70 brought a massive storm. The training hall flooded. Finally, Teacher thought he had a legitimate excuse. "Sensei, where do we train today?" he asked. The master pointed to the covered patio. "But it's raining." "So what?" the master replied. "Do you think enemies only strike on sunny days? Do missions only happen when you're comfortable?" Teacher trained in the rain, soaked, slipping, cold, but without pause. Chapter 5. The Invisible Preparation. Yet, Teacher was about to encounter a challenge that nearly broke him. No matter how strong the oath, how fixed the schedule, or how perfect the form, there exists one type of obstacle that defeats everyone, the one you don't see coming. Day 80. Tishi's father arrived at the school. A family emergency required him to return to the village immediately. Teacher panicked, not because of the emergency itself, but because of his training. Only 20 days remained in the 100-day shuyo. Before he could speak, the master intervened. "Do you think life waits for your 100 days? Do you think obstacles ask permission? You promised to practice without gaps, not to have convenience. This is your true test, not when everything is easy, but when everything falls apart." And then the master introduced the fourth pillar of Ninpo, Zeni, prior preparation. A shinobi is never caught off guard because every possible scenario has already been anticipated. When X happens, he responds with Y instantly, without hesitation. Teacher and his master sat down and listed every potential obstacle: travel, illness, unexpected visitors, emergencies, extreme weather, injuries. For each, they created a specific plan. Pre-dawn travel? Road workout. Sick? Half the reps. Arm injury? Focus on legs. Rain? Covered patio. Family emergency? Essential 15-minute practice. When Teacher returned to the village, he spent 3 days assisting his family, but every day at 4 a.m. he trained. Condensed practice: 20 push-ups, 10 minutes meditation, basic sword exercises. Neighbors thought he'd lost his mind. "Your father needs help, and you're playing with a sword at 4 a.m.? But Teacher understood something they didn't. Morning training didn't take from his day. It preserved his identity, keeping him strong for his family. On day 83, he returned to school. The master asked, "How many days did you miss?" "None, Sensei," Teacher replied. The master smiled for the first time. "Now you're beginning to understand." A behavioral psychologist at the University of Tokyo, after 22 years of studying decision-making, found that predeciding actions removes decision fatigue during critical moments. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for willpower, remains available for execution, boosting success rates by up to 300%. Day 95. Just 5 days from completing the 100-day shuyo, Teacher had changed. Other students noticed. He didn't talk about training, he simply trained. He didn't promise to wake early, he just did. Motivation was unnecessary. Practice happened automatically. Whispers spread, "How does he never fail?" An older student answered, "He doesn't. He is." Day 100. Teacher completed the sequence for the 100th consecutive time. No mistakes. No gaps. No exceptions. The bell rang to mark the end of the shuyo. He expected relief, maybe celebration, but felt only silence. Deep, strange, and empty. The master asked, "How do you feel?" "Empty, but not badly. Like something heavy has been lifted." What had left was the part of him that needed to negotiate or decide. Now he had reached the 5th pillar of Ninpo, Mushin, the mindless mind. Chapter 6. The mind that doesn't hesitate. Mushin means no mind, the master explained. But it does not mean stupidity. It means no ego, no hesitation, no inner conflict between what you should do and what you want to do. If a samurai attacks, you don't have time to think, dodge, or block. Hesitation kills. The response must be instantaneous, automatic, unfiltered by ego. Teacher realized what he had built in those 100 days. Not just habit, but a part of himself that no longer negotiates. For the past 30 days, he hadn't considered skipping or varying practice. Not today. Maybe tomorrow? Practice flowed naturally, like breathing or a heartbeat. The master continued, "Now comes the real test. Your 100 days are complete. The fixed form is over. Will you revert to who you were, or remain something different?" Teacher didn't hesitate. "I'll continue. Because I am no longer someone who trains. I am someone who is." The master nodded. "Welcome to true Ninpo." 3 months later, Teacher was no longer a student. He had become a shinobi, not because of a certificate, but because something fundamental had shifted within him. His discipline intimidated the other students. He never talked about training, never complained, never negotiated. He simply became the kind of person who gets things done. One day, a new student asked, "How do you manage to never fail?" Teacher answered with the same words his master once gave him. "Failure is no longer an option in my mind. Not because I am strong, but because I removed the option." The student looked confused. "How do you remove an option?" "You sacrifice the version of yourself that negotiates," Teacher replied. "The one that hesitates, delays, and makes excuses. When that person disappears, only the warrior who keeps his word remains." But Tishi's transformation went beyond training. Something deeper had changed. And when people noticed, they didn't say it was impressive. They said, "This isn't normal." And that is exactly the point. Chapter 7. The Warrior Who Intimidates. 6 months after completing Shuyo, Teacher was assigned his first real mission, infiltrating an enemy castle to retrieve critical documents. The mission lasted 7 days. 7 days with little sleep, minimal food, and no comfort. Almost everything that could go wrong did. Still, Teacher completed the mission and returned with the documents. When the other shinobi asked how he endured, he simply said, "I did what had to be done." The deeper truth was this. During those 7 days, not once did Teacher think, "I can't handle this." That voice no longer existed. In its place was clarity and direct action. Later, the master spoke to him. "People will start reacting to you differently. They'll say you're obsessive, extreme, that you need balance." "Why?" Teacher asked. "Because your discipline exposes their weakness," the master said. "You are proof that their excuses are choices. And that makes them uncomfortable." The master was right. As Tishi's reputation grew, reactions shifted. Some admired him. Others feared him. Most felt uneasy. "He's not normal. No one needs that much discipline. That can't be healthy." But Teacher understood something essential. When your discipline unsettles others, you're finally operating at the right level. Average people get average outcomes. Warriors operate differently. In their world, "I can't" doesn't exist. One morning at 4 a.m., Teacher trained in the courtyard as new students passed by. One whispered, "That's scary." "He never stops." Teacher heard it and smiled. He remembered who he had been 5 years earlier, the boy who couldn't do 3 push-ups, the one everyone called lazy. That boy was gone. In his place stood a warrior. Discipline doesn't make you better than others. It makes you different. A person others look at and think, "That's not normal." And when you hear that, you know the weak version of yourself is gone. Because the system itself is not complicated. It rests on 5 pillars. First, ketsui, the public oath. You stop making private promises and start making declarations that change identity. Not "I will try, but I am." Second, unchanging rhythm. You fix your schedule and remove time as a variable. The body learns the pattern, and negotiation disappears. Third, perfect form. You repeat the same practice every day for at least 100 days. No variation, no creativity, only repetition until action becomes automatic. Fourth, muku, practice without gaps. No matter the situation, illness, emergency, exhaustion, you reduce the practice but never reach zero. Zero breaks momentum. Fifth, zeni, prior preparation. You decide your responses before obstacles appear. When difficulty arrives, you execute without hesitation. You list every possible obstacle and pre-decide your response. When X happens, you do Y. No thinking. No negotiation. Just execution. These 5 pillars transformed Teacher from a boy who couldn't do 3 push-ups into a shinobi capable of completing impossible missions. Not because he became stronger, but because he removed the part of himself that hesitated. Now I ask you, are you ready for this kind of transformation? I won't lie, this path is not comfortable. It's not easy. It's not for someone who just wants slight improvement. The NPO system demands you sacrifice a version of yourself, the one that negotiates, hesitates, or has endless excuses for why today isn't the right day. In its place, a warrior emerges. Someone who doesn't rely on fleeting motivation, because motivation is for those still debating themselves. A warrior acts because commitments are part of identity, not a to-do list. People will notice the change. They might call you obsessive. They might say you're extreme or that your discipline isn't healthy. Perfect. That's proof you're on the right path. The discipline that unsettles others is the only discipline worth having. The one that challenges comfort is the discipline that produces extraordinary results. The real question isn't whether the system works. It's whether you have the courage to commit fully. Don't test it. Don't compromise. Pick one habit. Make your public pledge. Set your fixed schedule. Define your perfect form. Commit to 100 days without gaps. Pre-solve every obstacle. Then watch what happens when you stop negotiating with yourself. T-shirt wasn't special. He was once a weak boy who chose to sacrifice himself so a warrior could emerge. You can do the same. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell to receive future content. Remember, discipline is only harmful when there's too little of it. Thank you for watching. Until the next video.